Today I'm painting Rocco from Zombicide Green Horde. Alright, so I primed off this miniature with Uniform Gray from the Army Painter. And this was a pretty simple model to paint, but a little long when it came to certain colors like this Chaotic Red from the Army Painter, which went on a little more watered down, even though I shook it like crazy. So I'd have to come back and do like a second coat on certain parts of it. There was other colors too I was having issues with. And but in the end, it turns out great. You'll see. Keep watching. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And don't forget to get notified also by clicking on that little bell. Now, I will admit I am not the best painter in the world, but I do love doing this as a hobby. And I try my best to replicate what they do in the artwork. I've seen other players, other painters paint miniatures like Sorastro and Watch paint it and ReaperOll. They are amazing painters on miniatures. Go check out their channels too. Their details are insane. I try as much as I can. I hope you enjoy the videos. So here's another paint, Crusted Sword from the Army Painter. This is going to be for his top armor leather thing. Now I kind of inverted the colors because I realized this one was a little bit paler, and in the artwork it's actually his robe or his crew dress. That was the lighter reddish brown color. But I went with this anyways, but as you can see, this is so watered down. I shook it. I had to add a mixing ball, which are amazing by the way to help you shake your paints. And it came out better after. I work on it a little bit off camera to fix that part. And now I move on to some Necromancer Cloak from the Zombicide Black Plague paint set. And this is for his shoes, plain and simple. Now these paint sets like the Zombicide one have unique paints sometimes, and sometimes also replicate some of the other Army Painter paints. But they're a great paint set if you're looking to just paint, let's say, Black Plague. Well, you'll have everything in it that you need to paint that set, or that game I should say. Now I'm going to use some Vallejo Model Color Black. And I've actually recently ordered some more Vallejo inks because I've heard of using ink is pretty cool for doing like wood and other kinds of colors like arcane and stuff from Vallejo. So I want to give those a try as well. I really do love Army Painter paints though, and I usually start mostly my paintings with them. So this is for his beard, his hair, and his sword sheath. Now I'm going to use a little rigid brown from the Zombicide Invader paint set from the Army Painter. And this is going to be for like the wood parts on the crossbow. And once again, I do not seem to know where my camera is. So this gives us like a earth tone to the crossbow. And I find it takes out the wood a little bit more. And when I do the shader later on, it comes out really nice. Again, sorry for being off camera. I hate it when it does that. I don't realize it all the time. Now moving on to mummy robes from the Army Painter, and this is going to be for his socks and his shirt that is coming out on his sleeves. And this is it looks white, but it's got a little hint of yellow to it, and when you put a wash on that, it really comes out with the details. And I do use it again after the wash to re-go over the areas that are raised. Alright, now we're going to use some pure red from the Army Painter. You can see the bottle cracks sometimes when you press on it a little too often. And this is for his scarf, plain and simple. Nothing more to that. Little detail there. Alright, dark stone now from the Army Painter, and this is going to be for parts of the crossbow that are like metallic, which I will come back later and put a little touch of rough iron over them. But I find sometimes always putting metal colors is not always the best, and sometimes just putting a basic paint that makes it look like it's more used comes out nicer. I'm going to use some oak brown from the Army Painter, and this is actually going to do the end of the crossbow, so the wood parts, and it's got a nice color to it, giving it that finalized touch on the crossbow. Now I'm going to use some Ancient Mummy from D&D's Marvelous Pigments paint set, which is also from the Army Painter. And this is another little paint set from them. The bottles are smaller, but the colors are really nice and they do pop. I use this for the ropes and the feather on the crossbow. Alright, so I'm going to use some Citadel Shade Nuln Oil. I really like this shade. It covers really well. It goes into the recesses really well. I'm not saying anything bad about like the strong tone or anything like that from Army Painter. Just sometimes the strong tone is more of a brownish color. And I have the Invader shader, which is more black, but it doesn't seem to get into the nooks and crannies just as well as what I would like it to. This one gives this a finishing touch almost, and I will work on a lot of highlights coming up. Alright, now I'm going to use some Zombicide Green Horde paint set paint from, it's the rough iron from the Army Painter. And this is going to go on this, whatever this weapon thing is. I don't even know what it is. I just painted it rough iron. I was like, well, it must be some sort of tool or gadget. I do also the hilt of his sword, and I come back and do tips of the, or parts of, not tips of, the parts of the crossbow, just to give it a finished look. I also do some highlighting on the beads later on, or the studs I guess, on his leather armor on his shoulders. Alright, so this is where we're going to start doing some of the highlights on the mini. So I use some of that mummy robes again, just come out and get the raised parts to give it that extra nice coloring. I come back and do some of the, I think it's what, chaotic red? Cursed sore, something sore? Crusted sore? Anyways, I tried doing some in the raised area, but then I just do it dry brushing. It's a lot faster to do dry brushing. You get a lot more coverage, and you hit those nice raised areas pretty neatly. Like I said, also I do the studs on his shoulder armor, just to pop out a little bit more. Else, here you go. That's what I'm doing right now. So as I use the uniform gray as the base, whenever I put the Nuln Oil over those spots that I didn't paint at all, it gave already a nice highlight, and then I finish it off with this Filthy Cape just to give that gray a little bit more pop. Okay, this is where I'm using the Vampire Red, which is a little bit lighter than the Crusted Sore, and this is going to come in and do the highlighting on his robe. And again, I go off camera. I hate it. I'm sorry about that. And I end up using the dry brush more because I was like, okay, this is painstaking, and I'm just not that good with highlighting. Then it's at this point where I notice I forgot to do his face and his skin. So I bring out some corpse pale from the army painter, paint his hands and his face. Now I'm going to paint his base with some black because I'm going to do some finishing touches with some of the actual base materials from the Dungeons and Caverns core set by the Game Master, which is from the Army Painter, which is an amazing line. And now I do some contrast dark oak flesh. It's a contrast paint from Citadel Colors. I like their contrast paints for flesh colors. They come out really nice. The flesh tone too from Army Painter is amazing. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Don't forget, I also have these images on my Instagram, and you can also check out my Facebook page, Easterlings Gaming, for all sorts of gaming stuff, board games and video games. So that's Rocco painted up next to his real picture. Not bad, I would say. And there's the finished base. Thanks for watching.